This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another session of ESL listening practice.
It's great to be back.
I am so happy you're joining us today. If you're an intermediate learner of English, maybe you're hovering around that B2 level and you're looking to really push your listening skills forward,
While also hearing some genuinely interesting stories.
then you are absolutely in the right place.
Definitely. And today, our goal's a little different. We're not going to be listening to, those boring textbook dialogues.
The ones about ordering a coffee or asking for directions.
Exactly those.
Yeah.
No, today we're going to get into some real stories. And it's a topic that I think almost everyone has heard of, but, very few people know the real detailed truth.
I think you're right. Today, we are talking about Greek mythology. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You're probably thinking about the movies, right?
The big Hollywood blockbusters.
Exactly. You're thinking about strong heroes fighting giant monsters, or maybe you have this vague memory from school about Zeus and Mount Olympus.
And that's a great starting point. Most people have that general knowledge. They know the gods were super powerful. They know about magical creatures like Pegasus or the Hydra.
But that's not where we're going today, is it?
Not at all. We are looking at a collection of narratives that focus on what we're calling shocking facts from Greek mythology.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
So we're not going to focus on the heroic battles or, the happy endings that you might see in a Disney film.
We're going for the opposite.
We are going for the things that are surprising, strange, and, to be honest, sometimes a little bit dark.
The stuff they probably didn't tell you in school.
They definitely didn't tell you this stuff in school. It was either too complicated or maybe just a little too intense.
So what are we talking about here? What kind of shocking facts?
Well, we're going to uncover some very dark family secrets. Some extremely unusual births.
When you say unusual, what do you mean?
I mean biologically impossible. Just wait. And we'll also look at some behavior by the gods that is, let's just say it's pretty shocking by our modern standards.
Okay, this sounds juicy. And the best part for everyone listening is that while we're digging into all this ancient drama,
Like we're gossiping about the gods.
we're going to stop and really focus on the English vocabulary that's used to describe it all, because these stories are packed with fantastic words that you can absolutely use in your daily life.
Even if you're not talking about gods and monsters.
Exactly.
That's the real mission today. We want you to listen for the story, of course, but also pay really close attention when we pause to explain a keyword. We've got some great ones.
Like what?
Well, we'll be looking at words like sibling and divine. And we have a more complex but incredibly useful phrase, morally questionable.
Oh, morally questionable. I love that one. It sounds so polite.
And so judgmental at the same time.
It is. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start at the very top. I'm talking about the highest point on Mount Olympus. Let's talk about the king and queen of the gods, Zeus and Hera.
The ultimate power couple.
Right. On the surface, they seem to represent order, stability. He's the king of all gods. She's the goddess of marriage.
It seems very official. They're on their thrones. They're ruling the world. It all looks very proper.
So the narrative introduces them just like that. King and queen, married, rulers. But then there's a twist. There's a shocking fact right at the beginning that just changes everything.
It's the kind of fact that really makes modern audiences uncomfortable.
I can imagine. So what is it?
The information we're looking at states it very clearly. What many people find shocking is that Zeus and Hera were also brother and sister.
Okay. Yeah. That is a lot to take in. They were husband and wife, but they were also brother and sister, as in they had the same parents.
The very same parents. And this brings us immediately to our first vocabulary focus for today. The word is sibling.
Sibling. That's spelled S-I-B-L-I-N-G.
Correct.
Now, this is a very useful word. I use it all the time. But for our listeners who might just be used to saying brother or sister, how would you define it?
It's really simple. A sibling is just a neutral word for a brother or a sister.
So it doesn't specify the gender.
Exactly. If I ask you, do you have any siblings? I'm just asking if you have brothers or sisters in general. I don't care which.
It's also much faster, isn't it? Instead of saying, do you have any brothers or sisters, which is what, 6 words?
Right. You just say, do you have siblings? It's efficient.
So where would you typically see this word?
Well, it's often used in more formal English. Like if you're filling out an official form, maybe at a doctor's office or for a government document, it might ask for the names of your siblings.
I see.
Or, just when the gender doesn't matter to the story. So in our context, when we say Zeus and Hera were siblings, we're just stating the fact that they shared the same mother and father.
Which, again, makes their marriage, well, let's be honest, pretty weird from our perspective today.
The readings say this might seem strange or uncomfortable. I think uncomfortable is putting it mildly.
It really is. In most modern cultures, that's a taboo.
That's another great word for our listeners. Taboo. T-A-B-O. Something that society says is forbidden or just wrong.
But the Greeks had a reason for it, didn't they? It wasn't just random.
No, and this is the fascinating part. There was a logic to it, a very specific reason why the gods in these myths often married within their own family.
It was all about power, wasn't it?
It was all about power. It had very little to do with love or romance and everything to do with keeping control.
How so?
Well, it was a way to keep power inside what's called the divine family. Think about it.
Okay.
If Zeus, the king, marries a goddess from a totally different family, or maybe even a human, well, then that power has to be shared. It gets diluted.
Right. It spreads out. Strangers get a piece of the pie.
Exactly. But by marrying his sister, Hera, all of that absolute power stays in the same house. It keeps the authority concentrated.
You used another great vocabulary word in there that I want to flag for everyone. Divine.
Yes, divine. Yeah. D-I-V-I-N-E.
You see this word everywhere when you read about mythology. What's the core meaning?
It means anything related to a god or holy or something that's heavily connected to the heavens.
So you might hear a phrase like divine intervention, which means a god stepped in to change something.
Precisely. In our story, the divine family is just a formal way of saying the family of the gods.
So can native speakers use this in a normal, everyday conversation? It sounds very formal. You wouldn't say your neighbor is divine, would you?
You actually can, but you'd be using it metaphorically.
Ah, so you don't mean they're actually a god.
Right. This is a great tip for B2 learners who want to sound a bit more expressive. If you eat a piece of chocolate cake that is just unbelievably delicious, you could say.
Oh, this cake is divine.
Exactly. You're exaggerating. You're saying it tastes so good, it feels like it was made by the gods.
I like that. I'm going to use that. So, to recap this first part, we have Zeus and Hera, the divine siblings, who are also married to keep power in the family.
That really sets the tone, doesn't it, for how different the world of these myths is from our own.
It really does. But if you think a sibling marriage is dark, the next story we're looking at is, well, it's genuinely tragic.
This is one of the biggest differences between what you see in popular culture and what you find in the original myths. We have to talk about Hercules.
Hercules. Okay, now everyone knows Hercules.
The strong guy.
The ultimate hero. My first thought is the Disney movie, He's singing songs, he's flexing his muscles, saving the day.
He's a celebrity. They're putting his face on vases and action figures.
That's the image we all have. And the texts we're looking at, they acknowledge that. They say he's often shown as a strong hero who completed 12 impossible tasks.
But then comes the pivot. The text says there is a dark side to his story.
And this isn't just a he had a bad day kind of dark side. This is horror movie level tragedy.
Right.
What does the text tell us happened?
It all comes back to Hera, actually.
Ah, the sister wife.
The very same. Remember, she's Zeus's wife. But Hercules, he was Zeus's son from another woman.
Oh, okay. So Hera would have hated him.
She hated him. With a passion. She saw him as this living, breathing proof that her husband had cheated on her.
So she decides to get revenge on him. But she doesn't fight him physically because he's Hercules. He's the strongest man alive.
Right. She can't beat him in a fight, so she attacks his mind.
What does she do?
The text says, Hera made Hercules go mad. Now, we need to pause on that word mad for our listeners.
That's a good point. In American English, if I say I'm mad, what do I usually mean?
You usually mean I am angry.
Right. I'm so mad that I missed my train.
Exactly. But in this specific context, and this is common in more literary or British English, mad means something else. It means insane.
Crazy. Losing your grip on reality.
Yes. She didn't just make him a little bit annoyed. She caused him to have a complete mental breakdown. She put a fog over his mind so he couldn't tell what was real and what was a nightmare.
And in that state of madness, he did something truly terrible.
He did. He murdered his own wife and his own children.
Wow. Okay, that is definitely not in the cartoon version.
No.
That's incredibly heavy.
It's awful. And notice the language used here, murdered. It's such a strong, violent verb. It's intentional, even if his mind wasn't really his own at that moment.
So what happens after? Does he just stay mad forever?
No. And this is the most tragic part. The text describes the aftermath. It says, when he returned to his senses.
That's a great phrase for our listeners to learn, to return to one's senses.
It is, isn't it? It means you wake up from the confusion. You become yourself again. The madness lifts.
And when it lifted for Hercules, he saw what he had done.
Yes. He looked around and realized the horror of his actions. The text describes his emotions very clearly. It says he was filled with deep guilt and sadness.
Guilt. That's that awful, heavy feeling you get when you know you've done something wrong.
Unbearable guilt, I would imagine. He realized he had killed the people he loved most.
So this is where the famous 12 labors come in, right? The 12 tasks. Most people think he did those just to prove he was a hero.
Or to become famous, yeah. Slaying the Nemean lion, fighting the Hydra. They sound like adventures.
But that wasn't it at all, was it?
No. The text says it was actually a punishment.
A punishment for the murders.
A punishment, or you could use the word penance. A penance is something you do to show you were sorry for your wrongdoing. The text says, as punishment, he had to complete the famous 12 labors.
So he was trying to wash away the guilt.
He was trying to find forgiveness or redemption. It just completely changes how you see the entire story, doesn't it?
It really does. He's not just an adventurer having fun. He's a broken man seeking to atone for something horrible.
It adds so much depth. It's incredibly sad, but it makes the story so much more powerful.
Okay, wow. So from tragedy, let's move to something that is just bizarre.
Bizarre is a good word for it.
Let's talk about biology. Or maybe monster biology.
Let's talk about Medusa.
Medusa, another very famous character. Everyone can picture her, right?
Oh, yeah. The text describes her as a monster with snakes for hair.
And what's her special power?
The most famous detail, anyone who looked directly at her would turn to stone.
So she's basically the ultimate villain in a video game. She's terrifying.
A monster through and through. But the material we're looking at has a shocking fact about her that, honestly, I don't think many people know.
I certainly didn't know it until I read this.
It says, but Medusa was also the mother of Pegasus, the famous flying horse.
Wait, hold on. Pegasus? The beautiful, majestic white horse with the giant wings?
The very same one.
Medusa, the snake-haired monster who turns people into statues, is the mother of Pegasus.
It's a huge contrast, isn't it?
That's an understatement.
And the text points this out. It says, Medusa is rarely shown as a mother. We always see her as a threat, as something to be killed.
But she created something beautiful, something that could fly.
Exactly. However, the story of the birth itself...
Yeah.
Well, it's just as shocking as everything else we've talked about.
Of course it is. This is Greek mythology. So how was Pegasus born? I'm guessing it wasn't a normal birth.
It was definitely not a normal birth, not even close. So birth is usually a natural process of life. But in this myth...
It's connected to death.
It is. The text explains, Pegasus was born from Medusa's body after the hero Perseus killed her.
So, let me get this straight. The hero, Perseus, cuts off her head, and the flying horse just comes out.
Essentially, yes. The myth says that when Perseus severed her head from her neck, Pegasus sprang out from the wound.
That is such a vivid image, and kind of a gross image, too.
It is. It's this idea of life coming directly from a moment of violent death.
It really makes you rethink the whole story, though. It complicates that idea of her just being a monster.
It does. She's a monster, but she's also a creator, a mother. Even in her death, she gives birth to something beautiful and free.
That's a really great perspective. And speaking of strange births, Medusa isn't the only one, is she?
Not even the strangest, maybe. We have to talk about Athena.
Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, a very, very important figure in the Greek pantheon.
Absolutely. And the text we're looking at claims she had one of the most unusual births in all of mythology.
Unusual is a good word. For our listeners, unusual just means not normal, something that is rare or extraordinary.
And this birth was definitely extraordinary. The story begins with a very human sensation. The text says, Zeus had a terrible headache.
A headache. Okay, I think we can all relate to that. A bad migraine, you feel that pressure in your head.
But I'm guessing Zeus didn't just, take an aspirin and lie down in a dark room.
No, his solution was a bit more drastic.
A lot more drastic. He asked another god to take an axe.
An axe.
An axe, and to hit him in the head with it.
He asked to be hit in the head with an axe to cure a headache.
To release the pressure. And the text says, when his head was opened.
His head was open.
It was. And from that opening in his skull, Athena came out fully grown and already wearing armor.
Hold on, she just walked out of his brain.
She sprang out of his brain.
A fully grown woman.
In a full suit of armor, holding a spear.
So there was no mother involved in the usual way.
None at all. The text really emphasizes that point. It's what makes the birth so extraordinary.
But I guess if you think about it symbolically, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. It makes perfect sense. Tell me why.
Well, she's the goddess of wisdom, right? So it's fitting that she would be born from the head, from the brain of the king of the gods.
It's a literal representation of an idea. Wisdom comes from the mind.
It reminds me of that English idiom, a brainchild.
Oh, that's a perfect connection. Explain that for everyone.
If you have a really great idea or project that you created entirely by yourself, you can call it your brainchild.
And Athena was literally Zeus's brainchild. That idiom probably has its roots in this kind of imagery.
I can't even imagine that headache, though. A fully grown woman with a spear and a shield just rattling around inside your skull.
No wonder he wanted someone to hit him with an axe. But it creates such a memorable image. And that's what these myths do best. They give us images that are completely impossible to forget.
Speaking of things that are impossible to forget, we need to talk about Zeus again.
We always come back to Zeus.
We do. We talked about him marrying his sister. We talked about him giving birth from his forehead. But we haven't touched on his most famous hobby.
Yes. The text calls him Zeus, the shape changer.
This is a huge part of his reputation, isn't it? He's known for his power, yes, but also for his, what's the polite term?
His many love affairs.
And to conduct these affairs, he used a very specific method. He didn't just, walk up to women and introduce himself.
No, that would be too simple. He used transformation. He would change his physical form, his shape, to hide who he was.
Why? Why the tricks?
To get close to women who were maybe protected, or to approach them without scaring them. The list of forms he took is, well, it's pretty random.
Okay, let's go through the examples from our text. Number 1, a bull.
A large, strong animal. The story goes he turned into a beautiful, tame, white bull to trick a princess named Europa into climbing on his back, and then he ran off with her.
Okay. Number 2, a swan.
A graceful white bird. He used that form to approach a queen named Leda.
And number 3. This is by far the weirdest one for me. A golden rain.
Yes. Not an animal, not a person, but a weather phenomenon. Golden rain, just falling from the sky.
How does Lena have an affair with golden rain?
The story says a woman named Danae was locked away in a bronze tower where no man could get in, but the roof had a small opening to the sky.
So Zeus turned himself into golden rain to fall through the opening and visit her.
That's the story.
That is incredibly creative, but also just so strange. Let's focus on the vocabulary here. The text says he used these shapes to trick or impress women. And there's a key verb here I want to look at. To seduce.
Yes. Let's define that. To seduce.
Yeah.
S-E-D-U-C-E. The text defines it as to attract someone into a romantic or sexual relationship.
Now, when we hear the word seduction today, we usually think of someone using their charm or their wit or maybe their good looks.
Right. He seduced the audience with his beautiful singing voice.
Ah.
But in Zeus's case, the method of seduction involves turning into a farm animal or a shower.
It's a very deceptive strategy.
It is. And this brings us to a really important advanced phrase for our listeners. The text uses this phrase to describe Zeus's behavior. It calls it morally questionable.
This is such a great phrase. I really want everyone listening to practice saying this one. Morally questionable. Let's break it down.
Okay, let's start with moral. Moral relates to our sense of ethics, what is right and what is wrong. Good behavior versus bad behavior.
And questionable.
Well, questionable comes from the word question. It means something is doubtful or we're not sure about it. If you open your refrigerator and the milk smells questionable,
you probably shouldn't drink it.
You should probably throw it out. So if we put them together, what does morally questionable behavior mean?
It means the behavior is ethically doubtful. We suspect it's probably wrong.
Exactly. We're criticizing it, but in a very sophisticated, analytical way. The text uses it for Zeus because he's using tricks and deception. He's the king of the gods, yes, but is he a good guy?
It's questionable.
It's very questionable. And this is a fantastic phrase to use in English when you want to criticize someone's actions without being too direct or aggressive.
Can you give us another example?
Sure. You can say something like, the company's decision to raise prices during a crisis was morally questionable.
I see. It's a polite way of saying it was a bad and unethical thing to do.
Exactly. It makes you sound very measured and intelligent.
Okay, so we have looked at incest, madness, murder, bizarre births from heads and necks, and shape-shifting deception. This has been quite a list.
It has.
Which brings us to the analysis section of our discussion. The big question: why? Why are these myths so full of shocking things?
It's a fantastic question. I mean, why didn't the ancient Greeks just tell stories about perfect, nice gods who always did the right thing?
That would be so boring.
It would be incredibly boring. But the text we're looking at offers a really good explanation. It says the Greek mythology was a reflection of how ancient people tried to explain the world, human emotions, and power dynamics.
So it was like a mirror for their own world.
A mirror, exactly. But here's the key point the text makes, and I think it's brilliant. The gods behaved like humans, but without any modern rules or limits.
That's the terrifying part. They have all the same emotions we do: jealousy, anger, desire, greed.
They're what we call anthropomorphic, a great word. It means having human characteristics. They think and feel like people.
But they have superpowers.
Exactly. If a human gets angry at their neighbor, maybe they yell at them. If a god gets angry at you, they might turn you into a spider or throw a lightning bolt at your house. The consequences are on a totally different scale.
And the text says that this is what makes the story so dramatic, emotional, and sometimes disturbing.
Disturbing is another excellent word for our listeners. It means something that's upsetting. It makes you feel worried or uneasy. A lot of these stories are deeply disturbing.
But that's why we still read them, isn't it? The text argues that this is the very reason for their appeal.
It is. It says that these myths continue to influence books, movies, and modern culture, proving that even shocking stories can survive for thousands of years.
We're drawn to the drama. We love the shock value.
It's true. If the stories were just Zeus was a kind king who was always fair, nobody would be talking about him 2,000 years later.
Boredom does not survive the test of time.
But shocking stories do. We are hardwired to pay attention to the extreme, the dangerous, and the unexpected.
So let's do a quick recap of our journey today. We've covered a lot of new vocabulary and some very, very strange stories.
We have. We started with that divine family drama of Zeus and Hera.
The siblings who are also spouses, which is where we learned the word sibling, that useful gender-neutral term for a brother or sister.
Then they moved into the deep tragedy of Hercules, who murdered his family in a state of madness induced by Hera.
And that taught us about powerful emotional words like guilt and the concept of a punishment or a penance.
From there, we looked at the bizarre biology of Medusa, the so-called monster who was also the mother of the flying horse Pegasus.
And Athena, the goddess born from a headache, which showed us the word extraordinary.
And finally, we wrapped up with Zeus and his morally questionable strategies of shape-shifting in order to seduce women.
It all really supports the final thought in our reading material today. It concludes that Greek mythology isn't just a simple collection of tales about heroes and monsters.
No, it's about much more. It's about family drama, power, desire, and the consequences of our actions.
And it reminds us that these ancient stories were created to explore, as the text puts it so well, the darkest and most complex sides of human nature.
Which is why they still feel so relevant today.
It's fascinating stuff, and honestly, it's such a great way to practice your English because these images and stories, they really stick in your brain.
They do. It's much harder to forget the word sibling when you now associate it with the story of Zeus marrying his sister.
Exactly. That kind of strong association is one of the best ways to learn and remember new vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Now, before we finish for today, we have a little challenge for you, our listener. We want you to take a moment and think about your own culture.
Every culture in the world has its own old stories, its folk tales, or its own mythology.
Think about some of those stories that you grew up with. Are there any details in them that are, well, shocking?
Are there any strange births? Any heroes who did things that were morally questionable? Any family drama?
Your challenge is to try and describe one of those shocking facts in English. Imagine you're explaining it to a friend who has never heard it before.
And try to use some of the words we learned today. See if you can use sibling, divine, seduce, or that fantastic phrase, morally questionable.
It's a really great way to practice. You take a story you already know very well, and you challenge yourself to retell the most surprising parts using this new B2 level English.
It connects the new language to something you already own.
Exactly. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this exploration of the dark side of Greek mythology.
We hope you enjoyed the ancient gossip and, more importantly, learned some useful new language.
Keep practicing your listening every day. It really does make a difference.
It does. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.